Welcome back to the CIFF Media episode of The Future of Beauty Retail. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Nicola Ladstätter, the buying manager of Niche Beauty, and Steven Wildenberg of Golden Meteors, founder of Golden Meteors. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So let's dive straight in. I would love for us to kind of kick off your point of view of what is the state of the beauty retail landscape right now? What's thriving? What's evolving?
Yeah, I mean, I
Can we
can.
go first?
Yeah, I can start. I think what is very important that you are close to the customer through different channels. So at Niche, we value our customers so much because we have a very loyal customer base, and they're also, I don't want to say opinionated, but they really, they feel if something don't feel authentic. So I think authenticity is very important, and that you also, if we talk about products, that you have products that really work, and also you're not just buying a product because it's pretty. You're buying into a brand, and so storytelling is important. Reaching your customers through different channels. I mean, we currently at Niche, we only online. We have also a little corner in a very prestigious store in Hamburg, Germany. And so we have the chance to catch them up there, but also via newsletters, how we present ourselves online. We have huge marketing campaigns. A great visual language is very important to us. And yeah.
Amazing. Steven, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Nicola said. I feel like omnichannel is so crucial for brands right now. I feel like the ability to be seen everywhere is so important right now. I think people take brands more seriously when they feel like it's familiar or they've seen it authentic. I think a lot of that resonates and kind of like helps cut through the noise. Beauty is so crowded. There's thousands and thousands of brands for people to choose from. Post-pandemic, it's never been more democratically accessible for you to launch your own brand. So I just think, really telling a good story and having a product that's efficacious or does what it says or stands out in some kind of way is crucial.
This is a great transition into my next question. With such a noisy marketplace right now and very quite oversaturated in some ways, where you're just seeing constant brands coming out, what are you seeing that is so niche for specific brands right now in the market from both a retail perspective and also, Steven, when you're selecting brands to work with through Golden Meteors?
I would say I'm really looking for narrative-driven brands. Like for me specifically, being a North American agency, we've really tried to curate different voices. We've really tried to emphasize, different founder stories. I think founder stories from the retailer side too is so critical. How are they going to engage the retailer? How are they going to be a partner? How are they going to show up? How are they going to support sell-through? That's kind of what I look for. That's like my first screening questions out of the gate when I meet with a brand is, how are you going to be able to support?
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, it's not like it's the retailers are giving you the space, but it's up to you to kind of drive warm bodies into the store to buy things. So I think warm bodies come from engaging story, telling that brand narrative in all of your channels in a consistent, super meaningful way. I would say that's kind of mostly what I look for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also in a partnership, it's so important that something, what you also said, is something coming from both ends and not just that you are just giving or the other side. So a true partnership, also a long-lasting partnership, is so important that both partners are ready for each other. They want to be together, so to say. And also the authenticity and that the story is very well rounded up. I mean, to give a more particular example maybe is we launched a few years ago a brand that was very small. It was a brand from Switzerland, and they really found their USP with lymphatic drainage. And they had a very small range. This range is still small. It doesn't have to be always super big. But they had a story to tell. It's a brand by a doctor. So he brings in a lot of knowledge so you believe it also maybe more. And they were totally prepared also for niche beauty. They really wanted to become part of the niche beauty universe. And so they were giving quite a lot. And it was such a joy. So we mirrored that as well. And also it felt so authentic. The product worked. Also how they do everything around the range with sustainability, for example. So it's believable. So it's how they catch us at Niche Beauty, but also our customers, and the performance speaks by itself. So
Sounds like a brand I should connect with.
Yes. I think it's really interesting too, because, education, especially in the beauty industry, is so important. And I don't necessarily always think that brands do such a great job at doing that. They kind of are like, once we're in the store, we don't need to really put in that effort of continuously telling our brand story. And especially because there's so much science behind beauty products and what goes into it, and really understanding from a consumer perspective what they're putting onto their skin that then is going into their bodies. So I think I think that's what you both are saying is so important from a brand perspective, is to really make sure that you have such a solid storytelling base and are willing to really share that story, not only with your D2C consumers, but also with the retail consumers that you're going and putting your product in front of.
It's like, why does your brand exist? What's the reason for being? Like,
no, totally.
You can't just put out a product because you have a hobby and you think it's interesting. It's like the customer will see right through that. And I think like that's kind of what I meant earlier was, like, how do you stand out? Like, if it's product efficacy, that's one piece. But like, I think, to echo Nicola again, like, strategy is so important. Like the fact that brand showed up ready for the meeting, knew exactly what they needed to know about niche, but then was open and receptive to how best support a launch, I think is so critical. Like, otherwise you'll never get another order.
No, we sometimes call those brands also the kitchen brands. So there's like, oh, I didn't find a product, so I made up something in my kitchen, gave it to all my friends, and they loved it. So I thought I have to.
I solved the problem that didn't exist.
Exactly.
My problem only affected me, and that's another thing too. It's like, do your research. Like, what problem are you solving for others?
Yep. Well, that's a great shift into my next kind of rounds of questions. What are you seeing that today's beauty consumer want, and how has that changed over the past few years?
I think it varies. I think territory is important. Like, working in the American market, I mean, there's definitely specific needs, now having shown this year in Milan and Copenhagen and France, there's so many different needs, so many different consumer profiles that you can hit. So I think for me, my business has seen fragrance really explode and like drive our business. I think it's starting to slow. So kind of looking for what's next. I think cosmetics have never been more on fire in the time I've had my business. So we're actively looking for more cosmetics in terms of different narratives, different interpretations of products, different packaging stories. I think refillables are still at the beginning of their journey of being market relevant. I think the customers are curious, but I think simplifying them in a way where this goes into this and it's not a million different Lego pieces, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really exciting time because I think the market is kind of organically resetting itself for like what is next. I think fragrance was the last 2 years, but I think like there's going to be another category that we haven't seen yet bubble over into like explosive growth. So
I can agree with what you said. Also, fragrance is growing very fast at Niche Beauty. We also had quite a strong strategy behind it because it was not very well represented at Niche. So it was always more skincare driven. It still is, and it's our heritage, and it will stay like that. But what we can see is what is growing very fast after fragrance is supplements actually. So supplements are growing crazy good. So we are always looking for more brands, more products to really make the category bigger. But I think it's even harder to find good brands in that category, because of course you also put something in your body. It's, I think, even more different than just putting something on your skin, even though it's our biggest organ.
Yep.
But that's a category that's growing quite a lot, because I also think with supplements compared to fragrance or skincare or makeup, it's most of the time you have a specific order how much you have to take from the product. So a serum you can stretch more, for example. So if you have a pill, you already know when you have to restock yourself. So you have to replenish yourself as a customer stronger and more frequently than compared with other products.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of retailer interest in like what we call high churn products, so things that the customer is cycling through more quickly. I think a fragrance you can own for years at a time and not finish it, especially if you're a collector. But I think products like deodorant, there's definitely like there's room for interpretation with different body care stories right now, body wash, deodorant, like general hygienic products. So I think wellness is kind of bubbling over into a certain aspect, and I think beauty tech is like something that I'm looking for more innovation in as well. Like I think, like the massive success of the Lima laser tool and things like that, I really think there's going to be such an explosion of like beauty tech in the next 5 years of like just outrageous developments that we never thought was possible to like kind of help us preserve.
No, I agree. I mean, everybody right now is really looking into different ways of getting that, like, different types of treatments done. And I think we're going to see a lot of that at-home treatment that it's definitely a different price level, but it is definitely something that you can do at home. And we're already seeing that through all of the different infrared masks and like sculpting tools, new phase, all of that. And I think I think the tech space is going to be very interesting, and also like the wellness space is exploding in so many actual different categories of travel but also at home, and everybody's really caring about their internal organs just as much as their skin.
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit more around what you're seeing in specific behaviors and values you're seeing that are driving the purchases. Is it ingredients? Is it sustainability through the brands that you curate at Niche? And then also for you, Steven, are you seeing the brands that you work with, what are the retailers really looking for when it comes to your brand selection? So Nicola, I'd love to start with you on this one.
I think it's definitely ingredients, so that they get something that's really efficient, work. Sustainability, is also, of course, very important. I mean, at Niche, we have a little internals seal where the customer can see if it's free from certain ingredients. So, and we see also that our customers are very well informed, so they really look at the ingredients and look if it's really clean. So it's definitely important for sure. But why a customer buys at the end of the day a product at Niche is definitely the ingredients, that it's efficient. That's why they will rebuy it too. But also, again, to what we talked about before, is storytelling. You can see the difference when sometimes if we have a founder that is also not shy to step in front of the camera and is open to make a video for us for social media, for example, and to speak personally about the brand and the product and what makes it different to maybe what you already have, and build a connection with the viewers, the brand and the products will work stronger at the end compared to a brand that maybe is not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a loaded question. I think like driving consumer purchase, there's so many factors. I think at the most general sense, I think being a founder-driven brand, I think there's a lot of shy founders that don't realize how important it is for them to have their own audiences to then drive traffic to their retail partnerships, I think you have to have that.
Yes.
Like going forward, like I really think that's so important. Like, you know, in our company, we have so many charismatic founders who love to be in stores. They don't shy away from it. Very active on social media, and enjoy being present. And it's not like a burden to them. I think that's something the retailers love and respond to. That's something the customers then come and respond to, because at the end of the day, people buy from people. They want to know that their hard-earned money to take care of themselves is going to support someone that they like or aspire to be like or whatever. So
They also want to support the person.
yeah, exactly. And I think like company values and things like that, whether it's sustainability, ingredient efficacy, or you know, clean beauty or whatever, I think are all super important. I think, but I ultimately think what drives purchase is like energy and effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a general sense, you know, I just think it's don't sleep on it.
No, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And it's also not an alternative if you are a founder and you're shy to find someone else who is your spokesperson.
Right.
Yeah.
It's totally different. You have to be have the courage to step up and to be your own spokesperson. Also because of what you said. So it's you cannot find someone else to do that for you.
Right. No, for sure. I think it would be great for us to kind of talk a little bit about like some of the red flags or like common mistakes you see with beauty brands when they're trying to, you know, enter into a new store or a retailer. Because I think everybody is trying to grow their business, right? And they're thinking, okay, if I can get into all these stores, but there's not a clear strategy around that, it can become like you're just running in the same place, right? So if you guys could please share some of those red flags or common mistakes you see from brands.
I think there's one red flag, but it's kind of like a grouping of multiple things that people are doing wrong. I think not treating each retail partnership like its own unique thing and having kind of the same cookie cutter strategy is a red flag. Like, I think, you know, if I was selling a brand to niche, I'd want to know everything I could possibly know about their customer and like what's going to help sell through the product. Like, you know, there's so much emphasis on sell-in and not enough on sell-through. What's my education strategy? What's my visual asset strategy for this retailer? How am I going to shout them out in my brand social posts? Like, how am I going to remind people my products are available at niche or at whatever other retail partnership you're in? So I think the red flag for me is just kind of generally glazing over this as like a I'll figure it out later kind of strategy. I think you have to know before you go into a retail partner, like, how am I going to engage their customer? How am I going to make this work where I'm not just looking at the retailer as like cash flow, right? Like, how am I being a partner? Like Nicola said at the very beginning, like, it is a partnership. They are unique. Each retail partnership has unique challenges and benefits to your business and your brand. So it's in your best interest to be as strategically prepared for that as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes if we also talk at niche with new upcoming brands that are maybe also a little bit smaller, I mean, we love to support those brands, but sometimes if you have first conversations with them, it's sometimes shocking for yourself because they just want to talk about the fun stuff. So marketing and how they bring the brand to the customers, what is fine, but they forget the baseline. So, and for us online, of course, it's also important to talk about more boring stuff like, do you have an ERN code on your product? Do you have a best before date? Do you have a EU responsible person? So because we could talk about cosmetics, so some brands are so not prepared, but it's so important because before we talk about everything else, we need the base.
Yeah.
So and sometimes it's really shocking. Also,
it's the unsexy stuff like compliance and logic that gets them every time.
Yes, or if you're sitting there with a new brand and start to calculate, where you think, oh my gosh. and talk about margins and everything. So, and you really start with them from zero. It's quite shocking to you, and it's definitely a red flag.
No, for sure. I mean, I think it comes down to what you both are saying. It's like the practical, like the logistical things that need to be in place before you take that next step, because you're then just delaying everything else. You're wasting resources internally on like reaching out, doing those emails, doing that work, but then if you don't have the compliance, or you don't have the price structure in place, or minimum orders, or use by dates, you know, those are all things that you as a retailer need in order to be actually like have it function on your side. But then also, if you're not willing to be, you know,
it's like in the case of a specific product category, like SPF, are you individually registered for every country you want to sell into? It's the hardest category because there's so many legal requirements around it. You know, are you able to ship dangerous goods? You know, is your warehouse compliant to the retailer's needs? Are you bagging things correctly to keep things sanitary? Like, there's a lot of factors, and I think a lot of brands focus on the sexy stuff, like how does my editorial look? You know, is my product packaging how I want it to look? But that's one piece. Like, part of being prepped is like, you know, how are you going to incentivize the store staff? How are you going to, like, let's do all of that stuff.
I want to get into a little bit of your thoughts around trends versus timelessness. I know in the beauty industry, there's a lot of trends that pop up, and then people try to jump on that bandwagon. But as we know, trends come and go. And what are some of those brands that, you know, you feel have done that, have, you know, nodded to that trend, but then also have a timelessness effect on them as like a personal brand?
I can go with this one. I think it's a two-part question. So I think the first bit is trends versus timelessness. Can you integrate both? I think a brand totally can. I think what I'm seeing from the, you know, selling into a retailer side is there's an increased focus lately on trends, you know, from beauty buyers. Like, they're looking at TikTok, they're looking at these kind of viral products, and they have a dedicated strategy and amount of purchasing power to dedicate to those types of products. But they know that's not everything. They know that that's fleeting, and that they need to have their base roster of products and categories that, you know, they can always rely on that revenue. So I think when you're starting a brand, or you're kind of, you know, I think you could have a strategy with your product development where it's partial trend, it's partial classic. It's something we're looking for, is like the next brand that can kind of like weigh out both. I think for me, one of our clients, Born to Stand Out, is kind of like a great example of this. I think they do a really good job of staying trend relevant. They launched some really interesting trendy products this year, like extrait fragrances, which are more heavily concentrated. That is super popular this year. All the fragrance nerds are super into it. But at the same time, they kept introducing things that were true to brand, things that they weren't going to, you know, maybe discontinue in a couple of years, that were going to like remain classic to the line. So I think it's really possible. I think you just maybe have different marketing strategies for those different products. I think retailers have different marketing strategies for those, you know, different types of products. But I think it is like totally possible to merge the two in an interesting way.
And it's also so important, because if you're only trend driven, you are quickly here, but you are gone quickly too. So
it's another red flag.
It's another red flag. And I mean, also as a consumer, I mean, maybe you find something through a product or a brand or a tool, whatever it is, through a trend, and you fall in love with it, and it works for you, and it becomes to you something classic and timeless. And it's so important to balance out both.
I think like I like another example of a brand like this is like Sol de Janeiro. Not a brand I personally, you know, buy for myself, but it's like kind of fun to observe being in the industry. I think they do a really good job always exciting customers with like trendy launches, and then also having their like iconoclastic items. So yeah, I mean, I think retailers are always looking for the next brand like that, you know, like who's going to define a category, like who's the brand I can rely on to kind of keep the juice flowing, but also, have products that are just going to keep selling out.
Yeah.
And it's also important if you are already like this brand, a classic established brand, but you're not evolving with new knowledge, the science, also what is going on in the world. If you're not adapting to that too, or educate yourself more, you also will not survive, because there are other brands then that they see what you have done in the past, pick up from that, and also see what is the future and combine it. And that is the brand that is winning at the end of the day. I think also if we look at color cosmetics, for example, these old established brands, if we see how their color range was with foundation, for example, it was so limited. And I remember myself, and I would say I have not a very difficult skin color, but I had these not beautiful marks in the past where you see, okay, it doesn't work together. And then there came out more brands with more color shades, and some of the older brands picked up on it and some not. So I think it's very important.
I think there's also like a pipeline of trends that will kind of remain. For example, I think this like explosion we're seeing right now in color cosmetics that also have skincare benefits, that's not going away. Like that is a revolutionary new replacement for what was before. I think that's kind of where like trend becomes timeless. Are you solving an actual problem with your product range that is different from how other people are trying to solve the same problems?
And I found myself as a consumer like that too. I was in a store and looked for a new concealer, for example. And I was asking, okay, what can the concealer do? Is it just coverage, or are there also skincare benefits?
Right.
And the salesperson looked at it and she was like, no, it's only looking on that it's covering your dark eye circles. I was like, okay, that's sad.
Yeah. It's not doing anything else. It's not hydrating. It's not like, it's not giving me any other benefit. And I think we're seeing that trend. I mean, we've had these conversations a lot, Steven, where there's a lot of products out there that are dual purpose. And I think that that's really important, because I think consumers are starting to look at, and Nicola, I'd love to hear your perspective from niche, like not buying one singular product that does one thing, because you're just going to have so much product.
Exactly.
And so are you seeing that more customers are kind of drawn towards those dual purposes or multi-purpose products, or are they, still very much like wanting to buy that singular use product?
No, I mean, they definitely are looking for more pricing into more than just one thing, that they can limit themselves with the amount of products they have to purchase, and then prefer, okay, then I take a little bit more money into one product compared to buy 10.
Right.
So it's definitely something that we see, especially also for eye care, for example, that you have something very efficient that works, that is not just pushing down a problem, that also helps you for longer, so that there's a longevity included in it. So yeah, definitely.
I haven't, this is so not on the questions, but I really want to ask it.
We've gone off sheet.
I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on brands that only produce one thing. So for example, let's say Starface. They've gotten millions of dollars in backing and raising because they came out at kind of a right time where they're really catering to this younger generation of like, covering up your pimples or your spots on your face, but not being embarrassed or ashamed by it. They haven't come out with anything else, and I don't know if they are. But then they have competitors such as Mighty Patch and all of these other companies that are coming out with different use products, but are still kind of within that same that one category. What are your thoughts? I'm just curious on what your thoughts are on brands that are like that, and do you think we're going to be seeing more beauty brands coming out with these?
I have a lot of opinions on this. I mean, I think that's a brand strategy. I think mono product brands are D2C. Like, I really think it's hard for a retailer to adopt something mono product unless it's game changing, right?
Yeah.
Like, unless it really just owns the category, the customer's looking for it, where, okay, I'm a retailer with limited shelf space and I'm going to give something with one product a whole wall to fill up with the one product. I don't see it that often. I think it's something you see with maybe larger scale retailers like a Sephora or, a Douglas or something like that. But I think it reads D2C to me, like when I'm scouting for brands for my agency and, the thousands of potential retailers I can sell to, mono brand does not excite me. I think it's hard to fully tell a story with one product of what you're trying to accomplish as a company. I think it can be done, like in the case of Starface, but I think it's just not particularly what I look for in a brand. But I think it's interesting, and I do think them launching that product with Starface allowed them to open other companies. Like I think they launched like a Plan B product, and they launched some other kind of companies that all have this kind of like bridge and tunnel focus on like solving problems. So I think that's interesting. I think if I'm the consumer and I'm looking for like a product that's iconic to do one thing for me, I would buy that. But I think when it comes to retail partnerships, I think it's tricky.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, if we have brands that present themselves to us and they have only one product, it's really difficult to us. And most of the time, we don't do a partnership because it's hard for us with the storytelling. And also, I mean, the range doesn't have to be big, but only one product or a product with only one purpose is so hard for us to sell. And we made also our experiences. If we launched a brand that has a very limited range, also, or maybe only one product, it's hard to tell the story. And sometimes we know, okay, there is more coming, but until that point, the brand is not performing that great. It doesn't matter how much the product costs at the end, but there has to be more variety for us. For sure. Yeah.
I think like a good example of a brand that has a small range but has found success in retail is like Vintner's Daughter.
Yeah.
I think we're for years and years and years there.
Works also with very good at niche.
Yeah. I think they only had the one or two products for so long.
Right.
And I think the reason it won is because, one, it's luxury, so it drove customer mystique and interest. Like, oh, is it really that good that it costs so much? And does it do what it says it's going to do? And then the fact that they launched new products extremely slowly over time, just kind of like built the cult following, and it just was like, what are they going to come out with next? Because they led with efficacy, and I think that's kind of important. That's kind of how Starface won on the like more masstige arena, is like they won on efficacy by doing something differently that already existed, like a pimple patch or whatever, but they did it in like a fun,
playful way
that hadn't been seen before and now has been copied over by billions of other people.
Yeah.
My last question for you guys on this conversation is, what would be one advice you would give any small beauty brand or beauty entrepreneur who's entering the industry in 2025?
I mean, be well prepared. I think also with what we talked about before, with also the logistics and everything, be authentic, take your time, don't rush. I think it's also that you really... be prepared and don't rush. Make the product ready. And also what we have seen at niche sometimes, what is so confusing for us as a buyer, but also at the end for the end consumer, is if there are always changes in the packaging, in the product name, in the formulation. So please wait maybe a few weeks, months, how long it takes, a little bit longer, and then come out with a big bang. And make it right before you rush down the road.
I would say, be intentional and strategic, kind of the theme of today's conversation. I think in this case, it's okay to overthink everything. I think be thoughtful, like do things in a way that feels true to brand. Don't like, if a partnership doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, it's not the death knell of your brand. Like, I think you can always find a home for your product, if there's a customer for it. So I would say look into every arena, like what's your D2C, what's your D2C strategy? What's your Amazon strategy if you're in the US or anywhere else now? What's your strategy in different markets? I think just really plan into it and like, don't just do it, half-assed, really think about it and do every little thing slowly and surely, and then you'll get there. There's no such thing as an overnight success, like it took Salt and Stone a decade to get into Sephora. So, I think it all happens when it's meant to happen. So just lean in and kind of, be thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for being here with us today. It was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.